Welcome back to the Elite Pitch Side podcast channel. I'm your host, the HOD of the PSB. Like, share, subscribe to the channel if you're new, enable notifications to receive all the updates from these match recaps and all the content of the channel. Follow us on social media. I'm at PSB on Twitter, PitchSidePod on Instagram, and listen to the podcast on all podcast listening platforms or on www.webreathesports.com. We're coming to you straight after the Derby dell'Italia, which ended between Inter and Juventus, with Inter defeating the Bianconeri 2-0. And I have to admit, I got this completely wrong. I completely discredited Conte before the game, to be fair. I thought that Pirlo would take advantage of his sort of stubborn nature, but I thought, you know what, Conte was in his natural habitat. I forget about that really sometimes. This was Conte's perfect game, in my opinion. The perfect game where he gives Juventus pretty much most of the ball, and Juventus could not do anything about it. This was the game between the team that did everything, between the team that did nothing pretty much. The start was pretty strong from Inter in the first 10 to 15 minutes or so. They had more possession, surprisingly, in those first 10 to 15 minutes. Very unlikely in their nature, scoring a goal early on by Arturo Vidal, of course. They were playing wide. Achraf Hakimi was playing as a winger pretty much in the game. He helped Nicola Barella and set him up to cross inside the box, and the mistakes in the centre-half pairing of Bonucci and Chiellini, a lot of mistakes today in the positioning. The spaces between them were a lot. They were picked up really by Lautaro Martinez and Romelu Lukaku, who toyed with them for the whole game pretty much. Nicola Barella was picking up the balls behind the midfield at will. Juventus looked very slow, stagnant. They couldn't do anything with the ball if they wanted to. There was no width or depth for them, and of course the choice of the personnel by Andrea Pirlo would certainly hinder them. When you have a game like this where you need depth and you need width, you certainly need to bring McKennie. It was known that Dybala won't be available, so why didn't bring McKennie and Kulusevski from the start? He left them too late in the game. He left them with a 2-0 lead pretty much to get them into the game, and that didn't help, of course. That was too little too late from Andrea Pirlo. Again, you could really criticize Conte all day long for not bringing, for example, Christian Eriksen and not starting with him, but this was a game where you needed someone like Arturo Vidal, to be fair, to just break the play, just break the rhythm and break the tempo of Juventus and not allow enough spaces. This is not a game where you need a number 10 to be creative and create your chances, because you are not going to have the most of the possession, and certainly they didn't. Juventus had most of the possession in the game, and they really had a hard time doing anything significant with it in the first half. Every time Inter were on the ball, it felt like they could do something with it, and it felt like they are dangerous. And most importantly, there was space behind that midfield of Juventus. Of course, the problems in the Juventus midfield was so much clear for anyone to see. Again, they were picked apart. Nicola Barella had a brilliant game, marshalling that midfield, finding those spaces, picking up the pockets to Lukaku and Martinez, and certainly picking up spaces for himself early on in the second half. Well, the pass from Bastoni, by the way, for the second goal, it is the assist of the season. It has to be, really. A pass from around 50 yards out, sliding pass. Somehow he gets the ball all the way across to Barella, who was running behind in acres of space behind Bonucci. Certainly this is a mistake, even a rookie defender would not make. Not someone like Bonucci with all his experience and all his matches, plus 300 games in SerieA. Really, you cannot make mistakes like those. The midfield, again, all blame really on the midfield of Juventus for being so slow and stagnant. Aaron Ramsey being played so wide didn't really help the matters in a game like this. He had, Achraf Hakimi running on his side more often than not. He wasn't helped exactly by Frabotta, who went down injured early on in the second half, who was pretty tired by the time he was out of the pitch. This was a game where nothing went right for Pirlo, and this was a game where everything went right for Conte. This was a dream scenario for Conte. A game where he gives the opposition, the possession. They couldn't do anything about it, and he just picks them up by his favourite weapon, just playing the ball to Romelu Lukaku, and he bulldozed his way through defences. Really, he had a couple of serious chances to score a brace or maybe a hat-trick for himself in the game, but he didn't. He wasn't successful. He wasn't lucky at certain points. Again, every time Inter were on the ball, it felt like they could do something. They were dangerous. Juventus were not. They haven't any width, they hadn't any depth to their play, and certainly the absence of Dybala now really affected them a lot. It lacked someone who could, pick the ball and make the moves and try to open the spaces for them. Juventus felt so static. Cristiano Ronaldo pretty isolated in the middle of that Inter defense alongside Morata, who didn't do anything significant. Even the substitutions later on, the likes of Kulusevski or Bernardeschi and McKennie didn't have any impact whatsoever. I mean, this was a game where Pirlo completely lost the plot, and Conte was in his element, in his natural habitat, and completely capitalised on the stagnation of the Juventus side. A deserved victory for Inter that puts them joint top with AC Milan before AC Milan's game against Calabria on Monday, while Juventus, of course, ahead of a Super Cup final tie against Napoli on Wednesday. Of course, they entered this game 6th on the table with 33 points, now 7 points behind Milan, and this could be 10 tomorrow. And this will be a big blow for Juventus title hopes this season if Milan manage to make it 10 points. Again, the stagnation, and this was a game that showed Pirlo's inexperience compared to Conte's experience in these situations. A gritty game like this needed an experienced manager, and Pirlo unfortunately wasn't that manager. That's all for this game. Like, share, again, comment on this video what you thought, subscribe to the channel, enable notifications if you're new to receive all the updates of these match recaps and all of the content on the channel. SerieA on Twitter, PitchSidePod on Instagram, follow me there, and you can listen to the podcast on Spotify or any other platform or on www.repeatsports.com. I was your boy, the HOD of the PSP, and until next time, I'll see you soon. Goodbye.